Good morning. We are waiting for darkness. I'm completely calm. I'll be thinking of you. Have a fabulous life. We must board the trucks now into eternity. The theme of this year's Holocaust Memorial Week is Be the Light in the Darkness, a suggestion particularly relevant given the troubling times in which we currently live. Whilst acknowledging the dark depths to which humans can descend, this theme also, I believe, addresses the human proclivity towards kindness and compassion. Wilma Grünwald, whose letter I've just read, found herself at Auschwitz death camp in 1944. The camp was notorious for its entrance, upon which victims of the Holocaust were directed by Joseph Mengele to the right, meaning survival, or left, entailing certain death. Faced with an unthinkable choice, Wilma voluntarily chose to accompany her mildly disabled son to the left. Wilma's bravery, her willingness, even whilst awaiting death, to try and comfort others, and her compassion have all since been recognised as shining beacons of light in a place otherwise shrouded with darkness. Wilma Grünwald was not alone in espousing this light, however. As Europe endured its bleakest period, there were many who attempted to loosen the grip of ignorance, spread tolerance, and help those in need of refuge and escape from the grim realities of Nazi rule. People such as Karl Lutz, credited with saving half of Budapest's Jewish population, or Johann von Holst, a Dutch teacher equipped with nothing more than a basket, a sack, and a bicycle who smuggled Jews out of Amsterdam. Jean Damas, Johanna Eich, Irina Sendler, Sir Nicholas Winton, Naomi, Avey, Foley, Ravenhall, Bracey, Wells, Hambling, and Keeble. Just names to most, but capable of heroism which would illuminate and indeed save the lives of so many victims of darkness. We hope, therefore, that this year's Holocaust Memorial Week will inspire everyone at City to be kind, call out ignorance wherever it lies, and keep the light which so many people before us, from Wilma Grünwald to Karl Lutz, fought to keep akin.
I will be reading Shema by Primo Levi in memory of my grandmother who was a Holocaust survivor. You who live secure in your warm houses, who return at evening to find hot food and friendly faces, consider whether this is a man who labours in the mud, who knows no peace, who fights for a crust of bread, who dies at a yes or a no. Consider whether this is a woman, without hair or a name, with no more strength to remember, eyes empty and womb cold as a frog in the winter. Consider that this has been. I commend these words to you. Engrave them on your hearts. When you are in your house, when you walk on your way, when you go to bed and when you rise, repeat them to your children, or may your house crumble, disease render you powerless, your offspring avert their faces from you. Thank you.
I will be reading Never Shall I Forget by Elie Wiesel in memory of my grandfather's cousin, who was a Holocaust survivor, and whose parents and 9 siblings were all killed by the Nazis in the gas chambers at Auschwitz-Birkenau. Never shall I forget that first night in camp that turned my life into one long night 7 times sealed. Never shall I forget that smoke. Never shall I forget the small faces of the children whose bodies I saw transformed into smoke under a silent sky. Never shall I forget those flames that consumed my faith forever. Never shall I forget the nocturnal silence that deprived me for all eternity of the desire to live. Never shall I forget those moments that murdered my God and my soul and turned my dreams to ashes. Never shall I forget those things, even were I condemned to live as long as God himself. Never.
I will now read the Holocaust Memorial Prayer, first in Hebrew and then in English. Eilem alei rachamim, shochein v'meramim. Amtzei menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashechina. B'malot kedoshim u'toharim kezohar harakim mazhirim. Et nishmot acheinu v'achyoteinu asher nishbach damam kamayim v'she'avdu baratzot tachat memshelet Germania. Ana v'al harachamim hastirem v'seter knafecha leolamim. Utzror v'tzror chachaim et nishmatam, Adonai hu nachlatam. V'yanuchu shalom al mishkavam, v'nomar amen. O God, full of mercy, who dwells on high, grant a fitting rest beneath the wings of the divine presence. In the heights of the holy and pure ones, who shine like the brightness of the firmament, to our brothers and sisters whose blood was spilt like water, and who perished in lands under the domination of Germany. Please, O Master of Mercy, shelter them in the cover of your wings for evermore. Let their souls be bound up in the bond of life. The Lord is their inheritance, and may they rest in peace on their resting places. And let us say, Amen. We will now light remembrance candles in memory of all those who died in the Holocaust. We kindly ask you to observe a minute's silence.
Last year, I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to travel to Poland and visit some of the significant sites of the Holocaust. It was a hugely powerful trip in a number of ways, but I wanted to just share one particularly impactful moment with you today, which illustrates the importance of this idea of being the light in the darkness. On our second day in Poland, we visited the Majdanek concentration camp, and as we arrived, the first thing that really struck me was the location of the camp. In all my time reading, learning, and hearing about the Holocaust, I had always been under the impression that concentration camps had been in isolated areas, far from civilization. However, this was not the case. The sight of rows and rows of houses backing onto the camp is an image that has stuck in my mind ever since. And the first thought that occurred to me when I saw all those houses was, how was this allowed to happen? How did the Nazis get away with these atrocities right on the doorstep of hundreds of thousands of normal Polish citizens? Hannah Arendt, a 20th century Jewish thinker, said, "The sad truth is that most evil is done by people who never make up their minds to be good or evil." And I think this is the most apt answer to those questions. The vast majority of Polish people at the time were not evil. They did not hate Jews, nor did they support Hitler. However, they did remain silent. They did not speak out or act in any way to defend the defenceless Jews, and for that we all paid a price. And while there were some admirable people, like those we mentioned earlier, who put their lives in danger in order to protect Jews, and towards whom we must always show the ultimate respect, these people, who truly did embody being the light in the darkness, were sadly in the minority. Unfortunately, we seem to be entering another period of darkness today. Global political extremism and hate crimes are rising. There were over 100,000 hate crimes in the UK last year alone, and just a couple of weeks ago, we saw pictures emerging from the Capitol in Washington, D.C., of a man wearing a t-shirt that read, "6 million wasn't enough," and another man wearing a hoodie which read, "Camp Auschwitz," while at this moment in time, across the world, there are no less than 13 genocides being perpetrated. There is no question that hatred and extremism are still alive and well in our society, and we cannot ignore it. It is now our responsibility to fight this, to speak out and to take action against hatred and bigotry wherever we see it. We must learn lessons from the tragedies which we commemorate today, and take inspiration from those who defied the totalitarian rule of the Nazis to do the moral thing. For it is always easier to do what millions of Poles and Germans did during World War II, to turn a blind eye or to pretend that this is not the reality. We cannot do this. We must be the light in the darkness. I would just like to end with a quote from Elie Wiesel, a Holocaust survivor and Nobel Peace Prize winner, who said in his acceptance speech, "I swore never to be silent whenever human beings endure suffering and humiliation. We must take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented." Thank you. This concludes the ceremony.